So on April 29th, there was this incident. A United Airlines pilot wrestling a Boeing 737 toward the San Diego runway suddenly spots this shiny red object sitting just directly in his flight path.
Right. And this is at a pretty significant altitude.
Exactly. The plane is descending through 4,000 feet.
Yeah.
And that object, it was a drone. And, we're not talking about some sanctioned military test or anything.
No. We are talking about a consumer gadget hovering at an altitude where it literally has absolutely no business being.
Yeah, it's wild.
Before we jump in, for anyone joining us for the first time, I just want to quickly say who we are. Red Raven UAS provides customized drone training, program development, and expert consulting.
At Red Raven, we work with public safety, utilities, and enterprise teams. And our focus is really on one thing: helping you launch and grow a drone program that's safe, compliant, and actually ready for your mission. We do the consulting, the strategy, and the hands-on training that, turns an idea into a real operational tool.
Visit redravenuas.com for consulting, training, and FAA Part 107 certification, and check out the current special pricing on our Part 107 course.
Today, we are synthesizing this truly fascinating stack of recent industry briefings, municipal regulations, and military reports. We want to show you why the empty, predictable sky you grew up with is just, it's officially gone.
It really is. We're essentially looking at a critical snapshot of the airspace as of May 2026. We've hit this massive inflection point.
A turning point, yeah.
Right, because for years, the public has viewed drones as novelty tech, like holiday toys or just platforms for taking cool photos. But that era is completely over. We are watching the messy, real-time birth of a highly regulated, highly autonomous new infrastructure, and it's being built directly over our heads.
So our mission today is to break all of this down for you. We're going from that crazy near miss in San Diego to medical deliveries bypassing traffic in New York, all the way to a staggering $55 billion shift in autonomous warfare.
It's a huge spectrum. But to really grasp where this tech is going, we have to start with the friction.
Oh, absolutely. We have to look at what happens when the legacy rules of the sky violently collide with this new hardware. Okay, let's unpack this. The San Diego incident. Flying a consumer drone at 4,000 feet near an airliner is, it's like driving a go-kart the wrong way down a busy airport runway.
That is a very good way to put it. It's catastrophically reckless.
Right. But when I was reading through that FAA report, my immediate thought was just about enforcement. The sky is massive, right?
Right.
And a drone is the size of a toaster.
Yeah, roughly.
So how does the FAA or local law enforcement even begin to track down a tiny piece of plastic flying at 4,000 feet?
Well, historically, they couldn't. It was almost impossible. And that's exactly why the regulatory environment is shifting so aggressively right now to digital tracking.
Okay.
The core of the FAA's modern toolkit is this thing called remote ID. Now, the initial concept was kind of billed to the public as a digital license plate, but functionally, it's actually much more active than that.
So it's less like a physical license plate you have to scan visually and more like the aircraft is constantly shouting its exact GPS coordinates.
Yes, the coordinates of the drone and, crucially, the pilot's location on the ground. It broadcasts this over a local Bluetooth or Wi-Fi network for anyone with a receiver to hear. Law enforcement doesn't even need to see the drone in the sky. They just listen for the broadcast. But the system has to have a glaring vulnerability, right? What if I just turn it off?
Well, that is the glaring vulnerability. Older models aren't even equipped with remote ID, and malicious operators can absolutely intentionally disable the broadcasting hardware on newer ones.
Which puts us right back to the needle in a haystack problem. If I turn off the beacon, I'm invisible again.
You'd think so, but that is where the FAA's Deter program comes into play. So they aren't relying on the honor system of a pilot keeping their remote ID turned on anymore.
Right, because people break the rules.
Exactly. They are actively deploying and testing sophisticated acoustic sensors and specialized radar at major airports now.
Wait, acoustic sensors? Like microphones?
Yeah, essentially. These systems are tuned to detect the specific radar cross-section of a quadcopter, or they literally listen for the high-frequency whine of its propellers.
That's incredible. So they can find it by sound. Right. They physically triangulate the threat, whether the drone is broadcasting its ID or not. What's fascinating here is that regulators are building this intense, expensive surveillance net because a single reckless act by one operator, like that San Diego incident, jeopardizes the public perception of all legal operators.
They're basically treating the airspace as compromised by default. This isn't just an American philosophy. We are seeing a very aggressive global pattern of strict enforcement. Take Beijing, for example.
Oh, the Beijing mandate is huge.
Yeah, on May 1st, they instituted a sudden citywide ban on consumer drone sales. Just cut it off.
Yeah.
They capped residents at a maximum of 3 drones per location in residential zones.
And the timeline was what really stood out to me.
Right, they gave owners a brutally short 3-month window to register the aircraft they already have.
Or else. The speed and scope of that mandate is incredibly telling, but honestly, the most revealing detail in that specific report is the reaction from DJI.
DJI, the massive Chinese drone company.
Right, they are the undisputed heavyweight champion of the global consumer drone market. And they're headquartered right there in China. Their stores immediately cleared out inventory to comply with the Beijing ban.
Just emptied the shelves.
Exactly. When the home country of the world's largest drone manufacturer locks down its capital's airspace like that, it signals that strict, uncompromising airspace regulation is now a universal priority.
Unregulated hardware flying near sensitive urban areas is universally recognized as a major threat, which I think transitions us perfectly into the darker side of these reports.
Yeah, it gets a bit grim.
Because governments aren't just worried about a hobbyist accidentally wandering to a flight path anymore.
Yeah.
They are actively preparing for coordinated malicious use. There's this chilling detail from March that completely reframed how I think about this tech.
The New Jersey case.
Yes. Thieves broke into a logistics company in New Jersey and stole 15 agricultural spray drones. The total value of that heist was about $870,000.
And we really need to clarify for you guys what these are. Those are not the little camera drones you use to film a wedding or, inspect a roof.
Right, they're huge.
Agricultural spray drones are heavy-duty industrial machines. We are talking about platforms capable of carrying 40-liter payloads of liquid. They are engineered with industrial pumps and atomizing nozzles. They're designed to disperse that liquid over vast acreage at really high speeds.
Using GPS and terrain-following radar.
Exactly. Precise waypoint navigation.
So think about the mechanics of that for a second. If you strip away the farming context, what you have is an autonomous unmanned aircraft capable of dispersing a massive liquid payload precisely over any target it is programmed to fly over.
It's a terrifying prospect when you recontextualize it.
It really is. If agricultural tools can seamlessly pivot into mass casualty delivery systems, how do authorities even begin to secure major public events? Like, you can't just put up a chain link fence to stop an airborne threat.
No, you can't. You have to build a digital invisible perimeter. And the sources detail exactly how the Department of Homeland Security and NUSTL, the National Urban Security Technology Laboratory, are deploying this right now.
For the World Cup. Right?
Yes. They recently released counter-UAS field guidance that is being actively rolled out for the 2026 World Cup across 11 U.S. host cities. FEMA has actually allocated $250 million to back this up.
Okay, I understand the funding side of it, but mechanically, how does an invisible net actually stop a physical drone? Like, a radar ping doesn't pull a quadcopter out of the sky.
No, it doesn't. The mechanism starts with passive radio frequency detection. Every consumer drone has to communicate with its controller, right?
Yeah, sending video feeds and stick commands back and forth.
Exactly, over specific radio frequencies. The DHS systems map that local RF spectrum. When they detect the unique handshake signature between a drone and its remote, the system instantly locks on to both the aircraft in the sky and the operator on the ground.
Oh, wow. So they find the pilot, too.
Instantly. And if that drone breaches the stadium's perimeter, the countermeasures kick in. They don't fire a physical net. They blast the area with targeted radio noise.
Just jamming the signal.
Right. This jams the control link, confusing the drone and forcing it to trigger its automatic return to home or an emergency landing protocol.
And if that doesn't work?
Alternatively, they can spoof the GPS signal entirely. They trick the drone into thinking it is flying inside a hard-coded no-fly zone, which forces the software itself to ground the aircraft.
So if a local news station or even an unregistered police drone flies too close to the stadium during a match, they're going to get jammed and forced out of the sky just like a terrorist threat.
Exactly. The system doesn't discriminate.
This fundamentally changes the nature of the airspace. And honestly, if the government is going to this level of extreme RF monitoring and control, it really explains the sudden massive pivot we are seeing in domestic manufacturing.
Oh, the Skydio investment.
Yeah, I was looking at the financials for Skydio, the American drone manufacturer. They just announced a $3.5 billion investment into a U.S. manufacturing initiative they're calling Skyforge.
Bumping their valuation to $4.4 billion. It's a staggering injection of capital.
Right, with 2,000 new domestic jobs. But honestly, does Skydio really have a chance of competing with DJI's massive global scale? DJI produces millions of cheap, highly capable units. You don't just outspend that kind of market dominance overnight.
We don't. But Skydio isn't actually trying to beat DJI on consumer volume. They're answering a completely different mandate called the Blue UAS framework.
Blue UAS, what exactly is that?
Well, for a decade, local police, fire departments, and infrastructure inspectors just relied on foreign drones because they were incredibly cheap and effective. But as these drones become more integrated into critical infrastructure, data security is paramount.
Right, because a commercial drone isn't just a closed loop.
Exactly. It requires companion apps, firmware updates, and cloud processing for flight logs and all that optical data. The U.S. government recognized that having thousands of flying sensors routing telemetry through foreign servers is a massive national security vulnerability.
So they created Blue UAS to fix that.
Yes. The framework was created to rigorously vet platforms, ensuring the hardware and software are strictly air-gapped or utilizing secure domestic server routing.
So Skydio's $3.5 billion bet is basically that the U.S. government and enterprise sectors will completely abandon foreign hardware for anything sensitive.
That's the bet. They are rebuilding the industrial base from scratch because the data pipeline is just as important as the physical aircraft. The supply chain itself is being fortified as a matter of national defense.
But this introduces a really fascinating paradox when you think about it. Governments are pouring billions into testing sensor nets, jamming frequencies, and securing data pipelines. But what the sources reveal is that this massive security apparatus is actually a Trojan horse for the commercial sector.
It absolutely is.
By proving you can track, secure, and monitor the airspace, you finally give regulators the mathematical confidence to open it up for business. Which brings us to the holy grail of this entire industry autonomous delivery.
The security testing is literally the foundation that makes commercial flight legal.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Over in New York City, Skyports just launched a scheduled medical cargo drone service. They are flying directly over the East River, moving critical supplies from Lower Manhattan to a marine terminal in Brooklyn.
Which is an incredibly complex airspace.
It is. And we are talking about a 4-minute flight by drone versus a 20-minute drive by truck through some of the absolute worst gridlock on the planet.
It's life-saving speed.
But if the sky is as dangerous and highly regulated as we just discussed, how do you convince the FAA to let you fly an unmanned aircraft over one of the most densely populated cities on Earth?
You have to solve for BVLOS. That's beyond visual line of sight.
BVLOS, right.
Historically, the golden rule of aviation for drones was that the pilot had to maintain naked-eye visual contact with the aircraft at all times, period. But if you are delivering blood samples from Manhattan to Brooklyn, a human on a rooftop obviously can't see the drone the entire way.
So how do you fly blind over a city? Are they just like watching a camera feed on an iPad?
No, a camera feed isn't nearly reliable enough for the FAA. A slight latency or signal drop would be catastrophic. Flying BVLOS means relying entirely on redundant digital systems. The drone is communicating over secure LTE cellular networks or satellite links.
Okay.
It also integrates ADS-B receivers. That's the exact same technology commercial airplanes use. So the drone can digitally hear local news, helicopters, or police aviation in the area and autonomously alter its flight path to avoid them.
It moves out of the way on its own.
Right. Furthermore, it uses onboard LiDAR and radar for real-time obstacle avoidance. To get approval for that East River route, Skyports didn't just ask nicely. They took a relentlessly data-first approach.
What kind of data?
They ran 135 test flights over open water during the harsh winter months, proving a 96% completion rate. They brought the math to the regulators, proving their multi-layered digital systems could replace a human eyeball.
And once that mathematical trust is established, the floodgates just open. The commercial numbers in our stack are exploding. Zipline just hit its 2 millionth commercial delivery.
2 million. That's a huge milestone.
And they raised $600 million to expand operations into Houston and Phoenix. Meanwhile, Wing, the Alphabet-owned delivery service, is expanding its Walmart drone deliveries to over 270 store locations by 2027.
It's incredible scaling.
If you were sitting on your porch right now looking at the sky, you might not see them yet. But within a few years, A drone dropping a package into your neighbor's yard is going to feel as mundane as the mail truck rumbling past your driveway.
It is rapidly transitioning from a novelty into an invisible, essential utility. However, commercial delivery, with its defined routes and safety redundancies, is a highly sanitized environment. When you need to see what this technology can actually do without regulatory speed limits, you have to look at a place where safety protocols go out the window because survival is on the line.
You have to look at an active battlefield. The sources provide a detailed breakdown of the airspace in Ukraine, and the statistics from April 2026 are just staggering.
The volume is hard to wrap your head around.
In a single month, Russia launched 6,804 drones and missiles into Ukraine. That is a nightly average of 222 munitions. On April 15th alone, there were 703 munitions used in a single night.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Ukraine is operating as the world's most advanced, high-stakes laboratory for autonomous systems. You have an unprecedented volume of offensive drones, but you also have Ukraine's defensive response. The sources indicate Ukraine achieved an 88% interception rate against these swarms.
I found myself wondering how that's even mechanically possible. You can't shoot down thousands of small, fast-moving drones with traditional million-dollar Patriot missiles. I mean, the economics just don't work.
They don't. The interception rate is achieved through a decentralized autonomous sensor web. They deploy networks of acoustic sensors across the countryside, essentially just microphones on poles, that listen for the specific engine frequencies of incoming drones.
Just like the deter program at the airports.
Exactly the same principle. That audio data is fed into a centralized AI system that instantly triangulates the flight path and pushes those coordinates out to mobile fire groups and automated counter-drone platforms. Furthermore, Ukraine is taking it a step further by pairing aerial reconnaissance drones with autonomous ground robots on the front lines.
Ground robots, too.
Yes. We are witnessing the first fully integrated multi-domain autonomous warfare environment.
So what does this all mean for us? Like, if I'm managing a public safety drone program for a regional fire department, or I'm an executive at an American tech company, how does combat data from Eastern Europe translate to domestic airspace?
It translates directly into strategic doctrine and massive government funding. The Pentagon recently committed $55 billion to autonomous warfare.
$55 billion.
Right. That tidal wave of capital accelerates research and development, subsidizing the advanced sensors, software, and secure supply chains that domestic agencies will eventually adopt. The technology alone does not win.
Because buying a $50,000 thermal drone doesn't automatically make a fire department better at fighting fires.
Exactly the opposite, in fact. If the system surrounding the machine is flawed, the drone becomes a liability. A drone generates massive amounts of data. If a pilot is trying to fly the aircraft, analyze the thermal video feed, monitor battery levels, and coordinate with ground teams simultaneously, their cognitive load maxes out.
They just get overwhelmed and miss critical details.
Yes. The combat theater in Ukraine proves that success relies entirely on the infrastructure behind the hardware. It requires highly trained operators, dedicated data analysts, real-time communication pipelines, and incredibly strict standard operating procedures.
SOPs.
Right. Whether you are navigating a counter-UAS net at the World Cup or intercepting a munition in combat, the principle is identical. The hardware is just a tool. The organizational system is what actually dictates success or failure.
That really reframes the entire conversation. We get so caught up in the specs of the machine that we completely forget about the human systems required to manage it. Well, we've covered an immense amount of ground today, tracking this massive transition happening right above us.
It's a lot to process.
It is. We started with the sheer recklessness of a drone in the flight path of a commercial airliner over San Diego, which perfectly illustrates why the FAA is deploying the deter program and why cities like Beijing are aggressively banning unregistered hardware.
And then we moved into the very real security vulnerabilities, looking at how the payload capacity of agricultural drones necessitates those invisible RF jamming nets being built for the 2026 World Cup.
Right, and we explored how those data security fears are driving Skydio's multi-billion-dollar push to secure the domestic supply chain with Skyforge.
We saw how that exact rigorous testing is unlocking beyond visual line-of-sight flights, giving skyports the data they need to bypass New York traffic, and giving Wing the green light to expand Walmart deliveries to hundreds of stores.
And finally, we looked at the staggering crucible of Ukraine, where autonomous swarms are proving that an advanced drone is basically useless without the human operational system backing it up. The drone industry isn't just accelerating, it is permanently reshaping our infrastructure.
It is a complete paradigm shift. And as we wrap up, this raises an important question, a thought I'd like to leave you with, something outside of the briefings we reviewed today.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've talked extensively about how crowded the sky is getting and the digital nets being cast to monitor it all. If drones are rapidly becoming an invisible, highly regulated layer of our daily lives, delivering our groceries, enforcing stadium security, fighting wars, how long will it be until the concept of owning the airspace directly above your own backyard becomes the next major legal battleground of the 21st century?
Wow.
When an automated delivery corridor opens up 50 feet above your roof, who truly controls that invisible highway?
That is a legal and philosophical puzzle that we are going to have to solve very, very soon. Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending it with us, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Red Raven UAS podcast. Visit redravenuas.com for consulting, training, and FAA Part 107 certification, and check out the current special pricing on our Part 107 course.